This is the 18th season of Bass Talk Live. With your host, Matt Pangrath. BTL is brought to you by Lowrance, Bass Cat Boats, AFCO, Ducket Fishing, Strike King Lures, Sunline, Big Bite Baits, Spro, X-Zone Lures, Gamakatsu, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, and Pro Guide Batteries.
BTL, coming at you!
Good Wednesday, everybody. It is January 19th, and this is Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk bass fishing. The week has flown by. Had a very interesting week. Great show yesterday with Jimmy Washam. And if you haven't listened to that interview, it's definitely worth going back and listening to. I probably could figure it out. I forgot to ask him how old he is. I feel like he's only in like his mid-30s, maybe? Low 30s? But the dude has done roughly $400,000 worth of earnings in the last two. Definitely has the personality, the business mindset, and the drive to be in this game for a very long time. Speaking along those lines, someone else who has definitely demonstrated those characteristics is Hunter Shryock, who we have on the show today. And we're going to kind of dive back through. I mean, man, you see the jersey, you know all about the motocross, and we can talk about all that stuff. But I kind of got to know Hunter a little bit, and I don't really know him that well, but we're cool. We talk, and we kind of have running the same lines because he did a lot of media stuff and really got into it. When I was covering the Elite Series, he was doing a lot of on location and filming and video stuff at Classics, and the dude put his time in. And you see him on the Elite Series now. You see the consistency. You see, I believe he just qualified for his third Bassmaster Classic. But what you don't see were the 5, 6, 7 years that he put in there to be able to succeed once he got to that level in the Bassmasters Elite Series. So we're going to talk to Hunter about that. Also, maybe have a little bit of a bone to pick. If I pull this up here, the Bassmaster Classic odds were released on Bassmaster.com. Brian Brasher came out with them, and this was originally started, I'm going to say it was originally started by Mark Jeffries probably 10, 11 years ago, when he came out with his actual betting odds. Now, I know Bassmaster and Jeffries kind of do it differently as far as how they pick their numbers, or 3-1, 5-1, 10-1. And I will say, I spoke to Mark in studio this morning when he came in to feed Izzy the cat and give her insulin shot, I believe. And he said, "Did you see the classic odds that came out on Bassmaster?" And he's all fired up. So Jeffries, either his first or second return to BTL. Like I said, he's got a big tournament going on this week, and he's doing the coaching and the bowling things. He's got 3 bowling jerseys hanging up in the studio over there. But he will be back with his Bassmaster Classic odds for 2022. Folks, the Bassmaster Classic is March 4th through 6th on Hartwell, so that is rapidly approaching. And it's one of the fisheries, I think, that changes a lot, so it's not just the same thing over and over and over. We've seen, with the Jordan Lees and the Casey Ashleys and Alton Joneses, of drastically different winning formula for each one of those classics. So it'll be interesting to see the 4th time around if that is the same. But along those lines, let's get him in. And I'm not sure if he's even aware of this. I'm going to kind of bring him in on that. Hunter, how's it going?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Now, I just talked about the Bassmaster Classic odds, and you were in those odds. But, dude, you got to scroll. I'm still scrolling. I'm scrolling past Hackney. I'm scrolling past Scott Martin. I'm scrolling past all the Canadians. I'm still scrolling. I'm scrolling past Taku E2, Onum, Subraw, Hair. I'm still scrolling, Hunter.
It's fun.
You're 45.
Hey,
You're 45 to 1 according to Bassmaster. You pay any attention to that stuff?
I honestly don't. To be like, when you mentioned it to me earlier, that was the first time that I heard it. I knew it came out because I've seen some stuff on social media, but I mean, come on, it's bass fishing. I mean, I know you can put odds on stuff, and obviously there is some odds on favorites, but all that stuff goes out the window when you hit the water. And if you have the time to worry about that stuff, then you're missing out on a lot of opportunities to be worrying about stuff that you can control, like looking at a map of Lake Hartwell and stuff like that. So really, that's all kind of the mental side of this game, like getting back to just worrying about the things you can control. So, I mean, that's good stuff to have to hype up fans and everything else, but you can't let that just bog you down.
It's not something where you're gonna print that out and type it on your dash for motivation.
I'll definitely have it in the back of my head. Like, don't get me wrong. I like to prove people wrong. I mean, most competitors do, right? So you kind of have that Tom Brady mentality or Michael Jordan-esque to it. But yeah, it is what it is. They got to come up with something.
We'll go down that road. So, like, we do the Open Anglers Pick-a with me and Castledine and Hallman and Andrew Upshaw, who does that. There's 5 different pundits. You got Pete Robbins and Hellabass and all sorts of guys that are picking all this stuff before tournaments. As an Elite Series pro, do you guys laugh about the pundits' picks and the fantasy fishing, or are you guys so focused on what's going on in the lake you don't even notice? Are you even allowed to look at that stuff before the tournament, or is that a deal where you're like, hey, do you see everyone's picking you, dude, and the guy's like next to you at the boat ramp going, yeah, I haven't caught anything in a week?
I haven't had any of those conversations necessarily with other anglers, but I have gone and kind of looked, because I think it comes out like right before practice starts.
Right.
So it's like one of those deals, like you're online anyhow or whatever, and they have the picks up and everything, and I'll get on there and scroll and see if nobody picked me in bucket B. All right, let's see what we can do.
So you'll go look at the percentages. You'll see the percentages
every once in a while. But there's like 7 or 5 articles, so it's like hard to go through each one. But usually I'll pick like the top one and kind of see what they're picking me at. And there's been a few times that it's definitely pissed me off, because it's like, I think someone once said, if Hunter's ready to step out of the shadows of his brother and stop making videos and be a professional angler, then this is the week to do it. And I'm like, that's a little bit of a
Someone
stretch.
said that in a fantasy fishing article.
Yeah.
I might have to go back and try to find that. That was.
You notice how I still remember that too.
No, I do. Would you not agree though? You've delved in the realm of other sports and athletes where there's pundits and people are picking people and saying, this should do well and stuff. Would you not say though that as a whole, professional anglers are kind of treated with kid gloves by the media, because a lot of the media is in it and is involved in it, and you can't truly. You see what I mean? Like other sports and stuff, they're sitting there. Your guy drops a pass and he just gets ripped, or the quarterback's missing the throws and he gets ripped. I would imagine it might even be that way in motocross, but as a whole, most of the quote unquote media, and there's not a lot of independent media that does it full time. In fact, there's very few, pretty nice to the anglers.
Oh yeah. Pretty forgiving. No one's ripping someone's head off for finishing, there'll maybe be some comments or something, but like, it's fishing. The variables are changing too much to the best in the world are still going to, have their days where they're not the best. So they have to be more forgiving, or everybody would hate them, I guess.
I gotcha. So you are at your house in Tennessee now, just getting ready for the start of the season.
Yep. Correct. Yep. Dealing with the cold. Actually, today's going to be nice. So I'm thinking about sliding out on the water after we get done.
Where are you actually located in Tennessee? Are you one of those guys that moved to Chick with everyone else? Like, can you have like a little, so you could have like a 10 angler, professional angler, Lake Chickamauga tournament, just everyone launch their boat at their house?
100%, and it was difficult trying to find, or moving from Ohio, finding a place down here in Tennessee to live, or Alabama, like we had looked at both, and really it comes down to like just me and my wife. I wanted her to be comfortable as well. There's a lot of stuff to do around, Chattanooga and stuff like that. So I didn't want to be completely out in the middle of nowhere. So I feel like we're pretty centrally located. And then obviously you got within an hour, you got all kinds of different fishing. You got mountain lakes, for spotted bass, and then obviously the Tennessee River and everything in between. So it's a lot better than what I had.
Which was Ohio,
which was like just little man-made or impoundment lakes, like small, tiny stuff, and then Lake Erie. And that's it.
There's some hidden gems in there, though, right? There's a couple of hidden gems in Ohio.
No.
No?
I mean, yeah, granted, yes. In every state there is, theoretically, right? There's good places, but it's not like a consistent, like, going, my closest place to fish consistently and catch bass was Lake Erie, and that's 2.5 hour drive. To do that, it was better for me to do that once a week than it was for me to go fishing by my house 20 minutes to go drive up to Lake Erie. And you actually get to catch fish, because at the end of the day, fishing, you got to be catching fish to see what the heck's going on, or be at a place to catch fish. Because if you're not catching them, okay, I'm sucking. I need to figure something out.
I was trying to think. So, okay, so you're there. You have Miles Sonar Berghoff, who I believe just bought a parcel of land there and is setting up routes. You have Michael Neal, right?
Yep.
And he's got the Dayton Boat Dock. You got Carl, who's about to have a kid, and he's right there on Chick. You got Jacob Wheeler, who's right there on Chick. I know I'm missing. Is Buddy Gross right there on Chick, too? Or is he a little farther away?
I think he's down the road. And
who else do you have that's like right around there?
You named off a good portion. You got Andy Morgan.
Andy Morgan.
They're up north on, or I say up north. What's the lake above us? Now I can't even, I'm drawing a blank.
I'm not very good with geography.
Anyhow. But yeah, there's Wesley Strader.
Yeah.
He's right up the road. There's a bunch of guys.
You guys could have one heck of a king of Chickamauga tournament between those personalities. Who would you say is like does Michael Neal kind of run the show around there with the Dayton Boat Dock and all that?
Honestly, yeah. See, it's so weird because the way the lake's laid out. If you want to so I'm on the east side of the lake. And if you want to get to the west side, it's faster to go by boat, because if not, you're going all the way up or all the way down around the lake. So like for me to get to Dayton, it's like almost an hour, 45 minutes.
Even though
and that's where Michael's at. Yep. And then Carl, same deal. Like he lives on the other side. So it's like an hour to get to his house.
You ever run into each other on the water?
We have. Yeah. When we have our wraps on. If not, I don't.
Incognito.
Yeah. I peel that stuff off quick. You got to for the Tennessee River.
Chick's still good? Does it just get beat up every winter now?
It does. It gets beat up. But I mean, there's still fish to be caught. It's not probably what it was 7-8 years ago. But I feel like they all go through cycles. And the encouraging thing is like the towns, the DNR, they all care about it so much. Mm-hmm. So they're taking measures to keep this place stocked. They're putting Florida strains and all that stuff in. So I feel like that's, going to keep this place going.
How ridiculous is that April 7th through 10th Elite Series going to be?
It's going to be tricky. I mean, it's just one of them, like you don't know what weather. It's kind of like the Hartwell Classic, right? It could be still cold or some weird snap, water's still clear or whatever, or it could just be a wide open blowout. Problem is there's a lot
sight fishing that time of year. Do they sight fish a lot on Chick?
They could, yeah, they can. I nearly won an open doing it in 2017.
Oh, I have that written down. That was the year you had top three finishes in Bassmaster Opens. I was going to ask if you were like excited for that because that was like the same year you qualified for the elites, or if it was like, holy cow, how do you have three top threes? You had second and 2/3. Like, were you frustrated with that, or was that something where you were like, dude, I'm ready to go now?
Yeah, I'm looking forward because that event on it in April is like it's like a week or two before the one we had at the Open. But it's so situational with the weather, what they do with the water, whether it's going to be up or down. Like these fish know when it's time to go, and if the water's still down, they're just like, I'll chill. I think we've all been on lakes like that, so it'll be a tricky thing, but I would say, yeah, it's going to be wide open.
All right. Let's get into this. One of the reasons I wanted to have you on was you've basically been doing this a decade now. I would say, no?
Crazy. No,
Or
yeah, I'm agreeing with you. I'm just shaking.
I mean,
my head
from the time you kind of started to where you were like, all right, this is what I want to do. I assume that's how it happened. Did it just kind of evolve where you were like, holy cow, I'm in it now and I'm fishing all these opens? But it seems to me like just the way you kind of came out, like you were like, this is what I want to do. I have a game plan. And now 9-10 years later, you're living it. Is that how it went down back in 2011, 12?
Yeah, 2012, I think I bought my first bass boat. Now, granted, I fished before that. Obviously, Fletcher showed me everything. But so 2012, I got my first boat. 2013, I started fishing the opens. Completely clueless. Didn't have any.
What do you mean
intention.
completely clueless? You hear people say that. I was completely clueless. Explain what 10 years later, now that you have a clue, what completely clueless means. Because I grew up in it, right? So there's a lot of people who are listening who grew up. They're always fishing. They maybe been in tournament fishing for 15, 20 years. So you see there's a number of guys who have done that. You know, you did it. I think Gerald Spohr was another guy who kind of jumped in and did it. Fletcher was, I mean, as I know Fletcher, you guys fished a lot, but as far as like the serious jumping in the big time tournaments, what does zero clue mean?
Like, just seriously not having a big back, like you said, you've grown up around it. You've heard the talking. Okay, it's going to be a northeast wind. You know, it's not going to be as good today. Like all of that stuff was not fluent with me at that point. So I literally was like learning a lot of basic stuff, being the boater of the Open. So, everything about fishing, whether that be traveling, which I traveled a lot with racing, but like just the boat, the whole 9 yards, driving a boat. Like I wouldn't say I was the best at boating. I mean, you get better, right? Like now I'm pretty confident. You put me anywhere, go put me on the ocean in my boat, I'm going to be fine. But at that point, like I was still learning a lot of stuff. So that's what I say. When I say clueless, I mean like dodo, like 5 rods on the deck at all times and go. Like, but that's also the beauty in it. Like you can go catch fish still, not knowing a whole lot.
Do you feel like it's almost easier? Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say the more that I'm realizing, the more I know about fishing, the harder it gets.
That's where I was going with that. Do you feel like it's almost easier when you start to just go out and catch them because you don't know what you don't know, and you know some things that you do, and you're like, dude, I'm good at this. They eat a shaky head, and then you start to know more, and now boom, your mind's blown, and you know that you don't know.
Yep, exactly. And there's a lot of that that's going on. There's a lot of that that's going on with electronics right now, and we got young anglers growing up. All they do is stare at a screen. Which is good. Like that's technology that works. But at the same time, you know, if there's a rock up there on the bank, you know, you're not going to see the 4-pounder laying beside of it. And there comes Dodo me in 2013. I'm going to, you know, pitch my jig up there, my little pit boss and catch it. And I'm going to get 5 bites that day and have 17 pounds or something stupid and not know what the hell I was doing.
That's interesting that you bring that up because I have a fear, and I don't know if it'll be actualized or not, or if I'm slowly becoming in my 30s a grumpy old man, like Mark Jeffries would say, the stay off my lawn guy.
We're getting old.
But I feel like so I played hockey growing up, and you did the BMX thing growing up too, right?
Yep.
But in hockey, there's a lot of the guys who are really good at was you don't have a curved stick or the aluminum composite stick or any of this high-end stuff at first because you want the kids to learn the fundamentals, to not rely on their shot being because of the curve of the blade, to not be relying on this high-end equipment to help them succeed.
Right.
And you're also, I'm also seeing that with like the youth and the high school fishing. Like, I'm kind of in mixed feelings. Like, are you teaching them how? Are you using the tools and technology available to teach them how to become better anglers? Or with the massive emphasis, and you see this a lot in Tennessee, I'm sure, Hunter, with the high school fishing, and it's massive in all of it, and it's great to get these
Right.
kids out on the water and learn it. But are you sacrificing the fundamentals and developing the intuition, the knowledge base, the feel? All you guys come on and you talk in your interviews, the feel. Look, listen to KVD. It's all about the attitude.
Yeah.
Mike Iaconelli, never give up. Brandon Polinick, all mental. Like, it's all a mental thing. Are you sacrificing that for tournament fishing and results driven based on technology, to where the kids just know they look down and see it, but they don't know why they're seeing it, why they're there, how they're there, and you're developing a results driven angler instead of a talent and understanding driven angler? Does that make sense to
For
you?
sure. No, 100%. I'm going to twist it here for a second. Got COVID, lost my taste and smell. The first thing I thought of when I lost my smell, I was freaked out, because when I walk outside in the mornings, when I walk outside the morning of a tournament, dude, you can feel it. You know what I'm talking about. Like, you feel it, like, in the air, what's going on. You smell things. Like, and I was thinking about that. Like, that was my first thought. My intuition was like, using your senses, your mind, everything else to go catch a bass. So going back to what you're just saying, how many of these younger anglers are getting that, the sense, that feel, the humidity in the air? You just know, you hear the birds, like, it's about to go down. We're going to catch them. Or, this doesn't feel right. I need to punt. Let's go break out the shaky head, right? Instead of looking, being told, looking at your electronics, whatever, but also being, hey, here's the waypoints. Hey, we went on a guide trip. Hey, let's go do this. And at the end of the day, and I've said this before, like you said, it's great to get the young kids out there, but if you're really wanting to do it and have a career, or try to pursue that career, all that stuff's going to get sifted through, because you're not going to make it when you can't get information, or you can't go to a body of water and your buddy tell you where to go, and you got to figure it out for yourself. That's when you learn. Like, the whole thing is, fishing is constantly learning, and you have to be a really good learner to be able to succeed at fishing. So failing all the time, like I say, you got to be good at failing, like being able to compartmentalize those situations, take it as a loss, but not beat yourself down enough to actually, learn from it and keep going. And so, the younger anglers, and there's still a lot that are getting that feel. They don't have the best equipment, so they're learning the right way. Not that equipment is bad,
It's
but
a weird
it's a
deal.
situational thing. Yeah. And you have to learn when it's for you, and when it's, when to put it down.
Did you have a lot of help when you started fishing the opens, as far as people guiding you, teaching you, or was it kind of thrown into the fire and you learned it on your own? You had five, kind of 99th, but half your finishes were below 100th in your first 10
Mm-hmm.
opens. But then you also had a top 5 finish in your third open that you ever fished. So were you
Right.
kind of navigating it along the way, like going, holy cow, the deeper you got in, or did you have some help and some people that were saying this is kind of the way
Yeah.
it works?
Absolutely. Like, I mean, obviously my brother helped me out a ton, pointing, you need to be looking for this week, yada, yada, yada. But I also went down that path of getting help, getting information from people. I think every angler at our level has, at that, some point, gotten help. And it took me, years to realize, when I would get an overload of information and someone's, hey, you need to check this creek and that, da, 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 da. I caught them here in March before the tournament's in April, like, it confuses the crap out of me. And I would rather be the dodo that doesn't know that there's no bass that live in this creek, because then I end up being the only idiot in there catching all 7 of those fish. like that type of thing, because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's all mental, and you have to figure out what's working for you. So I honestly hated asking people for help. Like that's a big, I don't know, like actually going out of your way. And I'll see that today. Kids will message me on Instagram, "Hey, I got a tournament on Chick. Where do I go?" And they're conditioned to already start asking, and going about things that way. But the more information I had from other people, the worse finishes I had. And I tell you, like Douglas in 17, I showed up there because I was worried about Smith Lake qualifying for the elites. I showed up there with a day and a half of practice, didn't care, and just went fishing. Nearly won the tournament. And that just proved a lot to me. Like when you give yourself those situations, that's just self-confidence and, knowing that you can just pick up and go with something and don't think twice about it.
Mm-hmm. And now it used to be, a 30-day off limits and all that. Now, once the schedule's out on the Elite Series, it's a no info rule on it.
I love it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it gets followed completely, but it makes my job a heck of a lot easier because I don't have to worry about it.
Put you at peace of mind that you're not sitting there a month and a half out going, okay, because
you're not always trying to compete with someone else's information, especially if it becomes something that's like offshore or anything like that.
Yeah. Then
it becomes, you gain a lot of time by just getting dots, but I'm just glad that I don't have to even mess with it. I can just show up and go fishing.
Yeah. You're going into your 5th year here. I haven't asked anybody this, and I'll ask. I don't think it's a bad question. I've always thought, like, okay, you've got guys who have been out there for 15 or 20 years, right? And then they're like, okay, we're going to go no info once the schedule comes out. And if you're a newer angler, like we were talking like a KJ Queen or Justin Hamner or one of these guys who comes on, you've never been to any of these lakes, you can't get information once it comes out. But that doesn't mean that a guy who's been out there for 15 years has a massive repertoire of dots and people that they had been able to talk to when it was legal. So you do you run into it where you're finding the veterans have a bigger jump now than the guys that are 3-4 years into this who just don't have that history that those guys amassed completely legally, completely well? I consider it hard work to amass all that information. Is there a little bit of a gap there when you go to a place let's see. There's some places here when you go to a place, okay, like a Santee Cooper, of a guy who 5 years ago when it was totally legal had a local go 2 months before the tournament and went, well, here's how you run to all this. And now you've got a 25-year-old kid who's got no info going, I think I can get to that creek without losing a lower unit. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I knew that was like when I got onto the elites, that was the first year of the no info rule. So 2018. And so here I am.
Yeah.
Fresh out the gate. And I can't get any info for something that people, like you said, have been getting for info for 15 years. Now, granted, as the sport moves forward, that stuff's going to be, that's going to change, right? Guys are going to be leaving, yada, yada, yada. But I don't feel like, at the end of the day, like we're fishing against the fish the week of that deal. And there is an advantage, but I don't take it as I would take that advantage and let them have it for having the no info rule. If that's what you're asking, I would rather the guys that do have it. Hey, good job. You earned that at the time, right? Like you got what you did because that was legal then, but moving forward, we need to get this ship straightened out. So we got to start somewhere. So I'm willing to give that up. But at the end of the day, like, dude, that stuff hardly ever comes back to be like, oh yeah, I got this one random dot from Jimmy back in whatever, and I won the turn. No, it doesn't happen like that. How many times have we been to St. John's? I think we've been there 33 times now in the past 4 years, and it'll be one in a different place. Or you see what I'm saying? A different angler. Same stuff. It's all the same stuff, but it'll be a little bit different. It'll be a little tweaked. And we got more information on that place than anyone, like all the live coverage, and it'll still be some different little twist to it. Always is. So, yeah, they can have all the information. We just need to cut it out and just increase the amount of polygraphs.
How many do they do? Just a couple each one? Are you even allowed to say
so.
that? I know I've seen it. I've seen them, like, guys will stand and be in the bag line, and they'll come up and tap them, and they'll be like, you got drawn. And then after they weigh their fish, they go disappear into the room, and everyone gives them a hard time, and then they come out, and it's all good. Hey, we are talking with 3-time Bassmaster Classic qualifier Hunter Shryock. I mean, if someone had told you when you started this thing in the Opens that by 2022 you'll be getting ready for your 3rd Bassmaster Classic, you'd take that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I would have never guessed the way things have worked out to this point. So, yeah, it's been a fun ride.
3-time Bassmaster Classic qualifier Hunter Shryock will be back. I want to get into the flashy stuff when we get back. I want to get into the video. I want to get into the raps. I want to kind of dig into your mind on how you created, was it a persona maybe? Or kind of how you developed your brand as an angler, where that started, where that went, and where you think that's going in the future for bass fishing. It's BTL on a Wednesday. We'll be back.
The Ultimate Fishing System by Lowrance. Your choice of powerful fish-finding tools, all connected. From sonar and trolling motor to navigation and networking. To fit the way you fish. All with touchscreen control from HDS Live, the heart of your system. Find more, see more, catch more with the Ultimate Fishing System by Lowrance. Upgrade to the Ultimate Fishing System and get up to $1,000 cash back.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
I've made my living on the water for over 20 years.
For 14 years.
For over 23 years.
I've worn a bunch of different clothing brands over the years.
Some companies big.
And some companies small.
All of them said they were making clothing for us. But none of them knew us.
None of them were us.
Except for one.
Except for one.
Except one.
AFCO.
AFCO.
AFCO. AFCO.
Fishing isn't part of us. It is us.
The KVD 100 jerkbait. 15 different colors. A perfect combination of roll, wiggle, and flash. Increased castability. 3D eyes. Premium black nickel hooks. KVD. Tie one on. Striking lures.
So, you're looking to buy fishing electronics, huh? Are you also looking for true experts to help guide you through it? Well, at the Bass Tank, you've come to the right place. We are live forward-facing sonar pioneers with thousands of hours spent learning through winning trophies, cashing checks, and just having fun. Whatever brand you need, we have it. We offer free shipping, and we have 2 financing options available. Our experts are here to help you. Call us today or visit thebasstank.com.
Hey guys, Major League Fishing Pro Jacob Wheeler here with my new Signature Series line of rods with Duckett Fishing. We have my 7.2 cranking rod right here. Crankbaits can be very fickle, and having the right, having a lot of tip can be too much, and having not enough tip can, lose a lot of fish. So you really got to be careful. There's 1 or 2 techniques that I'm really adamant about having the perfect action as a crankbait, especially like a square bill, a DT6, those medium running crankbaits in the springtime when those fish's mouth are pretty tough. That's when I'm really on top of having my actions just perfect.
Combining one of the most popular hook styles with Gamakatsu's beefier Superline offering, The Gamakatsu Superline Offset Round Bend delivers the strength necessary to target big fish in heavy cover. Well suited for braided line and heavier fluorocarbon, the Gamakatsu Superline Offset Round Bend is built using stronger Superline wire that allows anglers to easily fish a finesse worm around heavy cover. The round bend offers a larger bite area, perfect for any worm presentation, while increasing your hookup ratios. The newly enhanced Z-bend holds your plastics on the hook longer, reducing the number of pull-offs and reducing damage to plastics. Available in 2/0, 3/0, 4/0, and 5/0, this is the most durable worm hook, designed for heavier lines that hold your bait on longer.
Preparation is key to success. And that preparation starts well before you ever hit the water. You're only as strong as your connection to the fish, and your line is that critical connection. Confidence in your line every minute of every day on the water is a necessity, and failure, it's not an option. Sunline makes the fluorocarbon, nylon, and braided lines to give you the strength to guarantee your confidence.
Welcome back to Bass Talk Live. We're talking with Elite Series Pro Hunter Shryock, and we kind of went down a path there, Hunter, that I wasn't really expecting to go down.
I know.
That's the beauty of a show, beauty of the podcast, man. When something piques your interest, you can kind of take that path and see where it leads, and that was good stuff, man.
Just roll with it. I like
Just roll with it. One of the main things that I wanted to get you on to talk about today was kind of the evolution of the brand. You hear that all the time now. The brand. Everyone's coming out with the YouTube channel. Everyone's talking about the multiple different ways that they can promote their sponsors. And you were were you the earliest guy that was doing it at the open level, that was actually creating a brand, coming out with tournament videos, following your journey on how to make it?
I think I was probably one of the first in the opens to do it, or at least do it to the extent that I did it as, because it was every event. It was, whether I finished 100 or I finished, top 10, like it was all on there. And so I don't think you had a lot of that. So it was more or less just that storyline of, trying to qualify for the elites. But yeah, that was back in the day. That was, and now you look at where we've come from then to now at the market that everything is, it's completely changed, which I mean, we knew that was coming too.
What made you document that back in the day? I mean, you're just an opens guy that's grinding. At that point, like, no one really knew who you were. What made you say, hey, I want to document all of this and then put it out in a high quality production on YouTube? And I think it's something people would watch.
I didn't think it was going to be the way that it was, to be honest with you. Like, I didn't intend, like, I knew I wanted to film it and do, but I didn't know it was going to turn out. I didn't even know how I was going to edit the stuff, like how that was all going to turn out. So it was really like, it was, right around now, we're sitting in Ohio, it's cold, you're trying to come up with stuff, content, whatever. And I came up with that idea, like, I need to, try to just film the whole season. And, it all started back in like 13 with the GoPros, 14, 15, the GoPro, that was the cool thing. And you can make videos with it. And it all just progressed, little by little. I ended up getting a better camera, better editing software, everything else. But then once we hit 17, it was literally just like, I think I want to do it. And then once the first event happened, it was at Harris Chain. I finished, I think, third in that. And then it was like, it was perfect. It set up completely perfect to film the rest of the season because it got so many eyeballs on it. So I don't think you could script that ever again. I mean, of how hard it is to make it through the opens or just fishing the opens in general. Like, to script the way that worked out, it was like priceless.
Were all the motocross guys doing it back then? Did they all have the GoPros and their own YouTube channels and all that, or was that no?
No, that was further behind. I honestly don't remember what all it was that intrigued me into doing that, just besides the fact that there were, documentaries that were coming out. There was more of them, like that 15, 16, 17 era. There was, a lot of stuff you were watching online. Now it's like we don't even think twice about watching stuff online, but it was only so many years ago that it was like, oh, let's try Netflix. So stuff like that kind of triggered it. You know what I mean? So
I
crazy.
just got a smart TV the other day. I moved into a new house, right?
Okay, cool.
So I had to get a smart TV, so I'm not doing the cable thing. And it's only been like the last couple years, and I was like, oh, there's like a button on here for YouTube and Netflix.
Yeah,
so like it used to, I was still like HDMI cable, plug into the back of the TV, run it through the laptop that's connected to the internet. And people are saying, oh, we're watching your videos or watching BTL on the big screen. And I'm like, you are a technological genius. And it's like, no, it's like two clicks now with the smart TVs.
Yeah. It's crazy. I know. And it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
It wasn't, dude. It was like, it's crazy how much everything's progressed. So
one of the things I liked that you always did was you had that like blacked out room where it was just you, and it was like almost like the Real World Confessional, where you'd go in and talk about the tournament. Like,
yeah,
where did that come from?
Trying to be more cinematic, I guess. Like, because I was still like hardcore heavy into producing and editing, and so I would spend a lot of time trying to have that effect, because I wanted people to kind of feel what we go through, going through the open, my experience. So I would make it a point to try to sit down and then that way kind of people would connect with it. And really people did really connect with that series that year, just because it was a dang roller coaster the whole time. So, but yeah, I'd pull out all the strings on that.
Were you shocked at the feedback you got, at how many people would stop you when you were walking around a Classic Expo floor, when you were at a weigh-in for an open, when you were around the industry, how many people came up and were like, dude, I don't miss an episode?
Yeah, it was just like you said, being at the Classic or being somewhere where, ICAST, you would really see, people talking about they didn't care about the tournaments. They cared more about the videos. So it was really interesting to see, and sponsor standpoint, like seeing where they stood on it, and that, to be honest, they had more interest in the videos than what they did my results. So that's kind of a balancing act, because it's like, if you're not winning, it's almost like just on to the next one to some people in that aspect.
Were you making money on that series when you first started it? I mean, or was that something that came along as it gained traction and sponsors were kind of like, hey, this fits with us?
Yeah, after that year, I was able to get sponsorships for it. But that first year, that was all done on our own, which typical for, a lot of things. You gotta get started first. But yeah, it made a pretty good run with sponsors, and, years after that were on board with it.
Do you get burned out doing that? Because I just do the basics, man. Like, I do the basics for each tournament. I'm not a big behind the scenes, put the camera in your face guy. Like, that's Hallman's jam.
Yeah.
And Upshaw, and they do all that. I try to just do the tournament days and then don't even get into it as much as you do. But you got to get a little burned out on it.
Yeah. And really it all just kind of comes back to, are you going to be, film guy, or are you going to be an angler? Because when I was fishing the opens, like, it was going to be a bonus. Obviously I wanted to qualify, right? But you don't know when or how that's going to happen. When it's your time, it's your time. Like, it happens. There's a lot of good anglers that don't make it, and it takes them a while. There's a lot of not good anglers that, not a lot, but you get what I'm saying. Like, it just happens. So to me, the content was like what really, pulled me through to make my, mark in the industry. Like, for people to know me, to grow a following, sponsors, that was my jam. Like, I had to have that. And not saying that I don't have to have it now, because that's not the case. You need it more now than ever. But there's that line, because my wife films everything. I'll film some of this stuff, and then I have to sit down and edit it. So I got to be faster at editing, which I have become. Like, I don't, spend as much time doing it, but also it's, my drive for wanting to be competitive at this point. Like, I'm on the Elite Series, like that's way more than what I used to have for filming, if that makes sense. Like, I want to catch them. Does that make sense?
Your goal is to make classics, to make top 10 cuts, to win a blue trophy. Whereas as you're growing and going through this, your goal is to, hey, let's be competitive. I want to qualify for the Elite Series, but I want to put out a banger video that everybody goes, oh, that's awesome.
That's
so
right.
It's just your priorities have changed. And I guess the only way to kind of combat that would be to go the Scott Martin, Brandon Polinick route. Have you considered going down that route?
I thought, obviously it's there. I wouldn't mind having someone take it over, but at the same time, now you're dealing with the film guy looking at someone else's work, and a lot of times that doesn't jive. You know what I mean? Because I can make something look the way that I want it to look. That hey, we live it with media, right? So we manipulate a lot of things where it could be something as simple as just leaving a conversation in that totally changes the mood of the video, and it makes you come off like, a butthead. I don't want that. Like, I want to have a good experience or whatever. Like, I want it to come off a certain way. Right. And so finding someone that's able to do that and put in the time and it's willing to work as hard as you, like, that's hard to do. And then at the other side of it, are you going to be able to pay this person, and are you getting compensated enough to make it worthwhile? Right. Because if you got to pay someone $40,000 a year, well, I better be making, that and some, just to cover the headache of it, or at least to cover the expenses. Right. And to come up with $40,000 in just sponsorships for filming, that's a little tricky. I mean, there's a handful of guys that are doing it and they got it dialed in. Kudos to them for doing it, because it's the best way to go, I believe. But at this point, it's like, I tell myself I just need to edit faster and be done with it.
So you're in a unique position because you're probably one of the only guys. You've watched yourself fish since you started fishing.
I don't watch any of my videos.
But when you edit it, you have to.
Right. Oh, God.
That's what I'm saying. Think about it. You're going through all of this. You're remembering. Sir, I'm going through me personally. I'm imprinting what I go through when I edit a video to see if it's the same thing that you, to where, point. Like, I had one last year. I make a cast with a Ned rig. This is in an open, in a tournament, during a competition day. I make a cast with a Ned rig. I turn around, I say something to my co-angler, like, oh, it's getting hot out here, blah, blah, blah. Got a raid suit on. Take my jacket off. No, this thing's on the rod is sitting on the deck. I just, getting hot out here. Take my jacket off. Take my bibs off. Put my flip-flops back on. Reach down, lift my rod. Oh, I got a 3-pounder on. But it was stuff like that I go back that night and I'm dumping everything and I'm just marking where the fish catches are, getting it clean for the next day, where I go, you know what? I might want to let that sucker sit down on the bottom a little bit longer, because when I went through it, it never even occurred to me that it had been down there for like 19 seconds before I picked the rod back up. Have you gone through that where you're editing to where you're learning about your tendencies, your weaknesses, your strengths that then help you moving forward?
A lot of it's like the technique side of it, right? Obviously, we went through the mental stuff on the water, so we learned those lessons and remembering what decisions you did or didn't make. But actually seeing yourself set the hook, fight the fish in, the rod action, all of that stuff mechanically is a big deal, right? Because it's all about hookup ratio and your landing percentage. And so if I can put 90% of the fish that I hook, or 98% of my goal is 100, but realistically, if I only lose 1 out of every 10, it's pretty decent depending on what you're doing. But learning your hook set, because you can't lie from that. It's straight on there, what the heck you're doing, whether you're having a little wimpy hook set like I do sometimes, or
it's embarrassing sometimes.
Yeah, like how you fight them next to the boat. So now you have something to work on. So when you're, actually somewhere you can practice and catch fish, you're like, yeah, I need to figure this out. I'm slack lining them, or I'm not setting the hook hard enough. This rod, I need to change something. You gain a lot of insight, because in your mind it feels totally different. I jacked that fish out of that bush. No, you didn't.
You felt it three times and then reeled into it.
Yeah, you're rod tip high, and you felt it pull, and then you had 6 inches to pull your rod back, and you wonder why the 4-pounder came off in the Classic. That's what happened, because you didn't let it. Anyhow.
One more question about Watch Yourself, dude. You get pretty tuned up. You get pretty keyed up. You have you're one of those guys that. It all hangs out, and it does not appear to be.
I'm working on that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It doesn't appear when I watch it. It's I don't take it. It seems very organic to me. It seems like that's what would happen whether the camera's there or not. Do you ever look back and be like, man, does that go in? Does that not go in? Like, talk about managing those emotions, because I mean, dude, you come completely unhinged sometimes.
I know. Well, and a
like
lot
good
of that
ways.
Too, going back to clueless, back in 13, not knowing what the heck's going on. It was almost a shock to me, right, to catch these fish as I progress. No, I'm serious. Like it's not a shock, but you get what I'm saying. Like it's like I didn't expect it to happen. So the longer I do it, the more I don't get as high and I don't get as low, because I expect these things to happen. Where at that point in my career, like I wasn't expecting it. Like, oh my gosh, I just caught a 5-pounder. I just caught a 3. Oh my gosh. Like now I'm like, all right, well, it's 10:30. We're, back on track now. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, there is some things that go into the videos as far as, what I want to put in, but that's just the raw emotion. So I think that's, you got to leave as much of that in as possible.
Oh, yeah. Out of the 100 guys on the Elite Series, how many guys do you think go nuts that we just never see? Like we see the 10 and we see some of the live percentage wise. Like you ever like fishing and you hear someone just going, oh
yeah,
like around the corner, and you're like, oh, I would never have expected that out of that guy.
Yeah, I'm sure given the situation, but I don't feel like there's too many. I don't feel like there's too many guys. I mean, Ike's back. Yeah, Ike's back. So I will be hearing people scream around the corner now.
He is. What's the plans for the 24/7 series moving forward? Like you said, it's a lot of time, it's a lot of effort. You have kept it up, but it wasn't like it was before in the opens. What is this going to get rebooted? Or are you just going to keep plugging away with it to be a part of it? What's the plans with it?
Yeah, basically just to keep it going. It's such a, we're doing 10 events this year, including, I think, is it 9 Elite events? 8 or 9?
Yeah.
I think it's 9. 9 in the Classic, I believe. So the content from that alone, we can't not do the series, just because you don't know what's going to happen, whether that be, top 10s, last place finishes. So I owe it to myself and to everyone to, keep that going, because eventually there's going to be a blue trophy at some point, and I don't want it to be the year that I'm not doing a series. So that will be pretty cool. But yeah, as far as revamping it or whatever, we'll keep the same style basically, and just raw and real and let it roll.
That's the next thing on the checklist, blue trophy.
I think a blue trophy is before qualifying for the Classic. We've had such a long off season this year that it's like, and looking back on what I've done, like just, going through the years and my thought process, it takes a special person to win mentally. You do have occasional wins where it's like, but to put yourself in a position to win more so, you got to definitely, get yourself there and not be taking the high road to get yourself another check or another average finish. That being said, you got to know this is my week to pull something out, or this is my week to, play it safe, to punt or whatever, and that's tough to do, but getting further along, I find myself not content with getting a check. Like, that's cool. That's points. That's good. But at the end of the day, how do you break through that plateau? How do you get into where you're top tens? How do you, and I don't have that answer yet. That's what I'm searching for, but definitely want to put myself, take more risks, I would say, when I have that opportunity.
Yeah, we were talking about this last night when I was just trying to get the audio set up a little bit. It's like a teeter-totter, and you're kind of sitting there. It's just it's really weird when you're, especially in the opens, that 30 to 50th place range, and you lived in that range a lot.
One bite.
5 years.
It's always one bite.
Yeah, you're always one bite away. Not always, but there's a lot. You're one bite away from a top 20, and you're one bad decision away from 100th.
Yeah.
And you're living in this weird purgatory zone, and the guys like you who can figure out a way to get out of that comfort zone and make those good decisions when the opportunity and time warrants it.
Yep.
Are the guys who go on to the Elite Series and have popular YouTube channels and make 3 Bassmaster Classics.
Yeah. I try to play the odds game as much as what I can. I know you talked about Kyle Welcher, and he played poker, and I often refer to bass fishing a lot like poker in a way. What's your odds? Yeah, I could go over here and do this, but I only have I get a bite an hour, or I have this other deal. I wasn't catching as much quality, but I can get this amount. You know what I mean? So that's constantly going through my head, throughout the day. What's my best odds? And I find when I go with my decision to go with the highest odds, I usually have better tournaments. Easier said than done.
Yeah. Well, when you're making good decisions, it's easy. It's when you're having to think about the next decision. It's when you make decisions and don't realize you're making decisions. That's when you know you're fishing good, in my opinion. It's when you're sitting there trying to make a good decision. That's when you're kind of already screwed.
Yep.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everybody at this point, we're fishing against, they know how to catch fish, and it's all about that day, making that right decision, making those right moves at the right time, and, stuff happens. And like we were just talking about, it's one bad decision, one lost fish, one this, one that, and that's all that separates, on paper, a lot of positions from the top to the bottom.
All right, a couple more things, then we're going to let you go. You've been on for almost an hour. Really appreciate it, dude. This has been awesome. Hopefully
it's getting warmer out. I'm about to head out.
I know. You're supposed to go fish, aren't you?
I'm chomping at the bit.
One, I would be remiss if I did not mention the throng of listeners that are begging you to bring back Larry the Legend.
Oh, man. I know. He's kind of slipped through the cracks lately. He's been laying low.
Is he still around, though? He's still
around. He's still around. So, we moved. Yeah, I don't think Larry moved with us. He stayed in Ohio. I'll have to get him down here.
Larry's had some boat trouble. He's been in the shop. The supply chain kind of got to him. But is there a chance that he might get his act together in 2022?
He almost came out at the Classic last year. I feel like Larry should weigh in at the Classic.
How'd you come up with that? Do you remember the very first time you put that wig on?
Yeah, it was Halloween. Back in 14 or 15 or something. So I was literally driving to Lake Erie to go bass fishing. It was Halloween. I stopped in at a Walmart, and this was all just for a social media post. I bought that stupid wig, and then I started talking like that. I don't even know why I started talking like that. Everything kind of reverse engineered itself. but
it just happened.
It just happened. I was sitting there and I was fishing at a place where it was stupid easy to catch fish. And so there I am dressed as an idiot catching fish. Then I start talking Larry the Legend. That's where he was born. And then that video was made and it was all downhill from there. Alter egos.
All right. But he's still around eventually.
Yeah. He's a TikTok superstar.
I've never been on TikTok in my life. I wouldn't even know how to open up TikTok.
That's where he lives. He needs to live on TikTok.
Is there a bunch of stuff that just gets recycled from Larry the Legend?
I recycled up because you got to think none of these kids have ever seen Larry the Legend.
Oh yeah, it's fair point.
And so I took a lot of those clips and I put them on TikTok and they blew up. So that's on my TikTok page. But
am I really missing it? Am I really missing out by not being on TikTok?
No. I mean, unless you just want viewers. I mean, it's not like I get on there and scroll. I can't scroll.
Right. I like to try to get a little bit of fishing stuff in each episode here.
Okay.
And I'm looking at where you've done well. And you've done well in Florida, you've done well in Michigan, you've done well in Tennessee, you've done well in Ohio or Oklahoma. Obviously Ohio, where you're from, but I don't really.
Tennessee's been real good to me.
It has. Well, that's why you live there. Maybe
surprisingly,
you've got it. Yeah. I was trying to think what is your style? You seem. I don't put you in a box for anything.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I mean, obviously, if I'm fishing 3 foot or less, I'm comfortable. I feel like that's my better finishes have come from. But then again, I top 10'd at Tennessee River last year on a jerk bait. So yeah, but anytime I'm flipping or chatterbaiting stuff like that, I'm pretty comfortable. Just shallow.
But you're still good with
stuff.
a drop shot and the Great Lakes and all that stuff.
Now, see, that's the tricky
No?
thing is because I like that. And now we have Lowrance Active Target, we got Scout, we got Forward, and you spend a lot of time looking at that stuff, trying to make it work in places that it may not work at. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's that. Like we were talking about, you got to know when to utilize it, know when to turn away and just go fishing. But it's a tool just like everything else, so you can use it, but if I can just go flipping or cranking or something like that, I'm pretty comfortable with it.
What's your favorite thing to flip? Like if you just had to, one plastic jig, something, it's the flipping bait that you're going to have on across the country.
I'm going to have a Berkeley Maxent Creature Hog. And probably half the guys on Berkeley. See, I kept that pretty low key for a while. And the cat it wasn't out of the bag yet on it. But back in Ohio, the first time I got it, I was like, look at this thing. It doesn't have action. It's like do nothing. It's junk. I'm like, whatever. I'm going to go fishing with it. I ended up catching 5 or 6 good quality fish at a place that you don't catch 5 bass at. You catch 2 or 3 and you win the Thursday night derby, right? And I didn't think nothing about it. And years later, lo and behold, this Maxent craze sets in. And then tournament anglers, we start to see, oh, okay, it does work for smallmouth amazingly. And now realize that it works for largemouth. And I knew it back then and didn't even put 2 and 2 together. But it's just a confidence thing as well. There's something about it. It's kind of like a turd, a TRD, like those types of baits. You know what I mean? Just a short, do nothing. They just catch fish. So that's the deal for me. One bait.
Interesting. Are you already getting stuff ready for the Classic? Now, you're working in the shop last night. How does that work when the Classic falls kind of in the middle of the season?
Yeah, so we got St. John's
backed
up by Harris Chain the following week. I think got 5 days between that and the Classic stuff. And then the Classic and then Santee Cooper after that. 2 weeks.
It's sandwiched, man. It's sandwiched.
Yeah. Half the season will be gone. Will be gone in a blink of an eye. And then after that, it's kind of spread out. So yeah, I'm getting stuff ready. It's just hard to say because I don't really know with Hartwell with the conditions. You don't know if it's going to be blowing mud or if it's going to be cold, clear, so I'm not trying to get too set. I mean, I have my basic stuff in order, my tackle, the stuff that I'm going to be using. I'll probably rig up some spinning rods that I'll leave at the house, and I'll come pick those up when we're heading over to Hartwell.
Nice. Anything else? You got any new additions to the brand, to the year that you've got coming on in 2022?
Yeah. So this year partnered up with Academy and Magellan. So that's really, really, cool deal for me. There's a store like 25 minutes from my house, so we can go down there and get whatever I need. And obviously they're predominantly not just in the South. I mean, they're made their way up north in places. But yeah, it's a good situation, and have a clothing sponsor as well. So I'm excited about it, and get that rolling for the next couple of years. That's the Magellan, the clothing sponsor. Yep, okay. For sure. Yep. That's like their in-house. Is that an in-house brand, kind of like Academy's own brand, just like the other big box retailers have it? Yep. Man, Academy used to be the only place I could get wingdings. And then I think wingdings stopped. They still have the pegs for the wingdings. What the hell is a wingding? Tail spinner. Oh, okay. See, they were like a buck $1.70, $1.80. And you could get there a Wahoo wingding. You could go into Academy and just stock up on them. They got a large selection. Yeah, they got a large selection of fishing stuff. It's nuts. They do. They do, and they do a really good job. It's surprising, even on online. Like, I've in the past, even before I was with them, I remember I've gone online when you couldn't get stuff off of other retailers online and getting stuff from them. So it's shocking how much they have, but that's also kind of a sneaky deal. Like, if you're out of stuff, be sure to check that, because not all tournament anglers are getting on Academy to check that out. So you run out of flatworms, you might want to check on there. Ooh, that's a sneaky good tip. Dude, I will let you. You're starting to get a little twitchy. You're starting to rock the chair back and forth. You need to go to the lake. You need to catch don't lie, you're probably going to throw an A-rig. No, I don't. No? I don't even. I own them, but I don't throw that. What are you going to do? I'm going to go cranking and jerking. Trapping. All right. We'll go fishing. Thank you for joining BTL. It had been too long. We got to get you on again. Hopefully after you win your first Blue Trophy, and then the 24/7 episode comes out, and then it's full circle. Yeah, and we can promote it on here. That'd be perfect. No, thanks for having me, Matt. I appreciate it. It's been fun. We could sit here and talk for like another hour and not even know. I know, but I got a guy coming in to fix the garage door. Yeah, he's beating on the door. That's at noon at the new house. So okay, good deal. Dude, go catch a fish, man. I appreciate it. We're gonna try to. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for listening, everyone. Be safe. Hey, Hunter. That was Hunter Shryock. Cool dude. Knows what's going on. And like I said, he's only been in the game for roughly a decade. Which is pretty impressive when you think about competing at the highest level consistently. At one point, he had like 13 tournaments in a row where he finished in the top 50s between 20 and 2021. Talked about, he said he was kind of disappointed with how the year ended. He had like 3 finishes below 50th, I think, out of the last 5, but he still finished 24th. Off the top of my head, that's right, in the Angler of the Year, and qualified for 3 classics coming up at Hartwell. So we will take one final break, and then we'll be back with BTL on a Wednesday. One of the cool new jig heads that Big Bite came out with is the Ram head, named after the Golden Ram Cliff Perch, and it's really designed specifically for the Ned style. But one of the cool things about this jig head and the Gamakatsu hook that Big Bite put in it, especially in the 3/16 ounce model, is how versatile it is. You can actually rig it 4 or 5 different ways instead of having to go through a myriad of different jig heads. This will get the job done. A bunch of different jig heads. You can actually very efficiently get the job done with the new Ram head. The Spro Little John crankbait has been around for almost 15 years, and it is one of my go-to crankbaits whenever I need a fish in the boat, so you can never have enough new colors. That's why Spro is coming out with a handful of new colors, including Pearl Shad, which has this bleached out white look, but it's got this pearlescent, really, really pretty. We've got Copper Shad,
which looks amazing in the water. It's got that purple flake on the back, really pops in the water. And then if you want some real pop, we've got sparkle shad, nothing but sparkles all over this thing. And then last but not least, we've got the matte sexy shad, just a really different looking color for a crankbait. So you want to give them a little different look, that matte sexy shad is definitely the one to go with. All these colors are available in the original Little John and the MD.
Elite Series Pro Daryl Gleason here. My Pro Guide batteries keep me going on those long tournament days and long practice days. Always plenty of juice, never fail. The best part about Pro Guide batteries, it's the people behind the company. They have over 40 years experience in the battery business, keeping all of us fishermen out on the water longer, catching more fish. Check them out at ProGuideBatteries.com.
What's up, Bass Talk Live fans? Brandon Polnick here. And ever since I won a couple Bassmaster Elite Series events on X-Zone Lures, I've been getting a bunch of questions of what makes them so special and different. And really, the truth is, it's in the details. The little details, things like no cheap fillers in their plastic. That gives you more lifelike action, more realistic and vibrant colors. But don't just take my word for it. Go to www.xzonelures.com and check them out for yourself.
We're back with BTL closing out another week of regularly scheduled shows. We'll be back tomorrow with the 50th, day 4, with Frank Scalish. Hard to believe he's done 50 of those already. But we might have some special stuff on that for BTL listeners. And then going into next week, working on a full schedule. And then I leave, I believe, after next Thursday for the first Bassmaster Southern Open on the Kissimmee chain, Lake Toho. Never been down there before. Looking forward to going down and hopefully exacting some revenge on Florida. Last time I was down in Florida, I finished dead nuts, middle of the pack, 111th out of 222. So looking to get the Open season off to a much better start than I did. But fear not, that following week there will still be regularly programmed BTLs. Now for this first Open, what I'm going to do is they will not be live because I will be in Florida practicing, competing. I've said this before, when I want to do the BTL 100%, when I'm down there practicing 100%. Eventually we'll get to the live on location from the Bassmaster Opens. But what I'm going to be doing is recording a series of shows. I already have a couple of them in the can, like most podcasts actually do. And then those will go out at, be scheduled to go out at 8:30 on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And yes, there is a day 4 that will be in 2 weeks that Uncle Frank. So not missing anything BTL-wise. It's just that it won't be 100% live. Well, I think that's what we got for Wednesday. Big shout out, big thanks to Hunter Shryock. He really brought it. Boy, all the guests really brought it. I mean, I'd say, hey, you want to come on talk 20, 30 minutes about stuff, and then it's always an hour. So that's it. BTL on a Wednesday. We will talk to you tomorrow.